Good morning, everyone. My name is Aurelio Politano. I'm project advisor in CINEA. We are here to explain and to share information about in particular, the priority topics of the new LIFE program, the sub-program for circular economy and quality of life. So if we move to the next slide, I can show more or less what is the plan for the presentation. We will just explain a little bit what we consider. We have a new term in the new LIFE program, standard action projects. Those are basically the old traditional projects. So we will just stop a moment about that and just explain, because this is the main focus of basically of the presentation. We will also explain a little bit about priority topics and where they will be assessed in the award criteria. And we will go then, together with the help of my colleagues, into the details of the priority topics, and you see them listed there. So as I was mentioning, we start from what are SAPs. So we can go to the next slide. So SAPs, Standard Action Projects, is the new kind of acronym for what they used to be the traditional LIFE projects. So the focus here we want to put is on, as I mentioned, those are the usual implementation projects of LIFE, the traditional projects. But it's important to know that with the new program, we have opened basically the possibility to apply also with some best practice projects. In this sense, we have a distinction between projects that deal with innovative solutions and projects that deal with best practice. Here you can see the definition. In terms of innovation, what we require is that a project is implementing a technology, a solution that is basically new compared to the state of the art at the member state level and at the sector level. So both these conditions must apply. So the innovation is not worldwide, it's not European wide, it's assessed at the level of the member states. And again, because we're talking about projects that are implementing projects, we require an operational scale that is sufficient basically to achieve ambitious and credible impacts, which are further defined in the award criterion impact. So talking about best practice also, this is important because you will see these terms, in particular innovative, in the description of the priority topics that will just follow. So by best practice, what we mean is an appropriate, cost-effective, state-of-the-art solution that allows, again, to achieve credible and ambitious impacts. So we consider, again, the best practice at member state and sector level. So this is the benchmark that you will have to consider when proposing a project. We don't accept, we would not accept a best practice that it's already a best practice, I don't know, let's say in France, in a region, because it wouldn't be, if it's not considered the edge of the best practices in France, basically, and in this specific sector. Having said this, this was kind of a due introduction, just again to make you understand the strategic use of these words in the definition of the priority areas, because we welcome best practice, but according to this definition. So we wouldn't like to be considered as a program financing basically a regional, municipal best practice. We're still kind of putting the bar a little bit higher compared to this. So in this sense, you can see in the last bullet point of my presentation, the innovative term is used to a certain extent strategically. So we can move to the next slide. So I was mentioning before, the priority topics of the sub-program are basically the preferences we commission from the policy point of view. In this sense, life still remains a bottom-up program, but those projects who basically comply and fit with the priority topics that you will see, they will get a bonus. Basically, the bonus will be assessed under the award criterion relevance, and you can see, okay, the entire award criterion, but the part in red is the part that is relevant to the evaluators when he will be reading the project and assessing the possibility that the project matches or doesn't match the priority topic. So you can see the maximum is 20 points. This is slightly different as opposed to the previous live program. In this sense, it's part of the compulsory award criteria where the projects need to reach a minimum. It's not anymore a bonus, and it's part of other elements, basically, as you can see, the concept and the methodology, the extent to which the proposal offer co-benefits and promotes synergies. So the matching with the topic will be assessed under these award criteria. It's important to make the link between, again, the award criterion, the priority topics, the use of innovation. You need to really be careful when reading the priority topics and trying to understand if your technology, your solution matches these priority topics, and you should try to make the case to linking it to the award criterion to gain as many points as possible, basically. So after having had this introduction, I just wanted to mention that, okay, we are focusing now the presentation on the standard action projects, traditional projects, in the sub-program for circular economy and quality of life. This is not the only financing instrument type of action, basically. We also have another big portion of this sub-program in terms of type of actions and also financing, is what is called now strategic integrated projects, which is nothing else than a kind of slight evolution of the integrated projects that we had in the previous life program. There are not many changes. You will see maybe colleagues now, they will mention here and there also some, they will have some references, in particular in water, to the strategic integrated projects, but I just repeat, the main focus of this presentation is on the standard action projects, which is really the kind of core of the life program in general and of this sub-program. We can move to the next slide. And here, okay, we already go into the details of the priority topics. If I may ask to go to slide 2, just for a second, and then we go back to slide 5. Many thanks. So here you see, now we'll be really discussing in detail all these priority topics, and we will be explaining basically what, from the policy point of view, we are looking for in a live project. We can go back to slide 5. Yes. So the first area is circular economy and waste. You can see from the slide, for those that are familiar to the previous live program, that there have not been many changes. So the first point of attention for you is what we are looking for here is innovative solution. You see it from the first sentence. So these projects or this topic deals with different waste streams, but all the solutions that we are looking for are supposed to be innovative. So please do pay attention, because this will be considered in the evaluation. In terms of the specific waste flows, you can see, again, if we compare to the previous live program, that we still have evidently, the waste electrical and electronic equipment, we have specified a little bit better some waste streams that are, let's say, significant, or that will be significant even more in the following years, like photovoltaic panels, smartphones, tablets, and computers. We have batteries and accumulators. This has not changed significantly compared to the previous live program. We have dismantling, remanufacturing, and recycling of ELVs, and it has been added also end-of-life ships. We have, and this was there also before, selective separation and recycling of construction works or buildings. We have plastic, bio-waste, textiles. This is in line with the new circular economy action plan. The same goes with the bio waste. This is an addition, the recycling of composite and multi-layer materials. You will also see in the final part of the description that we address the issue of COVID masks that we see more and more in the environment. And in this case, as you can see, also best practice solutions might be considered. We have critical raw materials from waste. This also was there, I think, in the previous wording of the priority topics, and we have packaging. The last point deals with the hazardous waste. What we require is the identification, tracking, separation, prevention, decontamination of this type of waste that will allow, well, first, safe disposal and also ideally value-added recycling. So this also has not changed significantly. And also here, we're looking for innovative solutions. So this is the most traditional part of, let's say, the area dealing with circular economy and waste. We move to the next slide, please. Thanks. So this part has been, together with the colleagues, evidently, of DG Environment, has been redesigned quite significantly to make it basically more in line with the initiatives that have been taken in the context of the Circular Economy Action Plan. One of those is the Sustainable Product Initiative. It's kind of recast of the Eco Design Directive. And here again, okay, the link evidently is to the main policy documents like the new European Action Plan for Circular Economy I just mentioned, and the key product value chains that are set out there. But here, basically, what we put the emphasis on is, if you can see the first bullet point, implementation of design for environment solution. Here, what we are really looking at is this type of projects that are able to think about the sustainability since the beginning. To use, let's say, maybe a bit older word, again, we're talking about eco-design, basically. The products that are, let's say, designed already with in mind a life cycle approach that will allow increased durability, possibility of recycling, of value-added recycling, this type of solutions. We, in the second bullet point, address also solutions we called post-design, in the sense that those solutions will allow basically increased product durability, reuse and repair, remanufacturing, upgrading. But let's say it's not designed as from the start. So because there's also a need, unfortunately, it's not so common still to, again, design some of the products with the environmental dimension in mind. We still are dealing with a lot of products that require possibility to extend their lifetime, the possibility to reuse them. So any solution that will be dealing with this is kind of, it is welcome. In the third bullet point, you see so-called product as service solution. So all these solutions or business models that basically allow, for example, assets to be shared. Not that we are asking for car sharing projects, but the first example that comes to my mind is this type of project in this category, or projects that deal with renting of assets instead of buying of these assets. The second bullet point is a bit more traditional, it deals with the so-called industrial symbiosis, so system of enterprises that basically are able to use the input or the output of each other to make a better use of resources, basically. The third part is digital product passport. This is projects dealing with basically tracking of the environmental performances of the project. Evidently, again, we're talking always about implementing projects in life. So we wouldn't want to see just IT tools dealing with this. If the IT tool is put into practice in concrete use, then it is another story. And then, okay, the last part is basically some specific considerations about what we require when we are dealing with this type of topics. Evidently, we don't want that there's a positive impact, environmental impact on one side, but then there's maybe a negative impact on another side. So kind of common sense consideration, but it's better that they are there so that you can read and you can make sure that you address them all in the proposal. For this part, I would say this is the idea. What I would like to emphasize here is the fact that you will see that, as opposed to the previous slide that basically and topic that was basically dealing with waste management, here you don't see the word innovative in this. What is the reasoning behind this? These type of projects that I've just described are not so common in life and are not so common, unfortunately, in our daily life. So in this sense, we are open to best practices. We are open to scale up this type of projects and make them more common in Europe. So, so we would accept best practice projects within the conditions that I have mentioned before. We can move to the next slide, please. So this priority topic deals with soil. It's also not very different from what we had in the past. Basically, we have a first area which deals basically with the improvement of soil. So use of practices and land management techniques that can basically improve, in particular, the status of the soil and avoid negative impacts in the ecosystem services provided by the soil. So this is one part. The second part is more linked. The second bullet point that you see is more linked to extreme weather events. So practices or solutions dealing with soil management that allow basically increased resilience and the possibility also, we would consider the possibility to scale up the implementation of the effective nature-based solution in these type of projects to combat desertification and again to protect from extreme weather events the soil basically. The last part, it deals more with restoration, protection, and improvement of the soil health. You will see we're talking about techniques that can basically restore the soil fertility and biodiversity following pollution. We are talking about techniques to basically assess, investigate, and remediate point source or diffuse soil contamination. And then you see again land management and soil techniques that are also able to intended to remove CO2. So in this area, again, we have not a lot of differences compared to the past. You will also see here that we use here and there the term innovative. And again, as I mentioned before, please read it as an important indication of what we are looking for, basically. I would say I'm done also for this part, and I actually hand it over to my colleague Mario Lionetti, who will introduce you to the priority topic of air and also noise.
Thank you very much, Aurelio. Good morning, everybody. If we can move the slide on. Thank you. So I'm going to introduce you the topics related to air. Traditionally, topics here are divided, go through two main policy frameworks. The first batch of topics are related to air quality and legislation, including the National Emission Ceilings Directive, while the second is more related to the Industrial Emission Directive. Let's start with air quality legislation. For those who are familiar with the topics of the previous years, I would say that everything has been kept and to a certain extent has been also extended and improved in the description. As for air quality legislation, where not explicitly stated in the text of the topic, the focus remains on urban areas and on rural areas, because the scope is to cover as many people as possible. The first topic concerns the reduction of particulate matters. This can be done through two main actions. The first concern the reduction of PM in areas where there is a high use of solid fuel for domestic heating. In particular, when I say solid fuel, is wood, biomass, coal, and peat. And now there is a novelty for this year, and is the introduction of a new subtopic related to areas with high emission of PM due to activities related to construction, reconstruction, quarrying, mining, mineral handling, or other dust generating activities, if not covered by the Industrial Emission Directive, because we have a specific topics targeting industries. Projects in this under this topic can be technical solutions, managerial solution, and then innovative regulatory, innovative incentive based. When I use the word innovative, it is according to the definition that my colleague Aurelio provided you before. Second topic is on road transport and mobility. The aim is to reduce the main air pollutants emitted by this sector. And as you can see, we have quite a detailed list of subtopics. You can decide to address one or more of them. You can see that some of them are also synergic to the others. The first subtopic is on the reduction of emission air pollutants related to the real world driving conditions. So here we expect you to implement technical measures for vehicles, eco-driving, measurements related to surveillance, to the use of surveillance technologies, but it's not only the development of the surveillance technologies or the inspections, for example, is related to the real implementation of this, because we expect you to generate impact and to actually reduce the emission of pollutants. Then we have zero emission vehicles and related infrastructure needs. There is always a specific spot on zero emission 2 or 3 wheelers, zero emission vehicles. Then the innovative use of alternative fuels, the innovative retrofit program for vehicles, alternative drivetrain technologies. This is the one I'm going to mention now is a novelty of the in terms of topics, is the innovative technologies to reduce emissions from wear and tear. So basically brakes, tires, road surface. Then we have high impact traffic access system. This may include low emission zones or road pricing schemes. The purpose is to introduce advanced access criteria, such as labels, for example, that enable the entry to this area of zero emission vehicles as a priority. And then we have here the focus is specifically on urban areas. And then the use of innovative logistic or passenger mobility platforms. Saying that, if we can go to the next slide. After the road transport and mobility, we have also the non-road transport and mobility. This includes maritime transport, the mobility in the port areas, aviation, and also the non-road mobile machineries as defined by specific European regulation 216/1628. When you tackle NRMM machineries, you can address machineries that are not yet covered by this regulation, or if covered, you have to go beyond the standards that are mentioned therein. And then the next topic is related to the reduction of ammonia, methane, and the particulate matter emissions from agriculture. And this is in support of the implementation of the UNECE Code of Good Practices for Reduced Emissions from Agriculture. After the air quality legislation, we have the second policy area, that is the industrial emission directive. The industrial emission, so the industrial sector you have to target here are exactly those listed under the industrial emission directives, and the focus is on the emerging techniques, not on the best available technologies. So you can implement projects on emerging techniques as referred into the industrial emission directive. When you have a brief, you have always a list of emerging techniques inside. Or, this is a novelty, you can also propose pollution prevention and abatement techniques that could qualify as a candidate emerging techniques under the periodical review of the best reference documents, the BREFs, that are carried out by the International Panel on Pollution Control Bureau in Seville. So here, being just because we are under air, the main pollutants you have to address are PM 2.5, nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, then ammonia, and non-methane volatile organic compounds. Saying that, for the industrial emission direct from air, we can move to noise. Next slide, please. So here under noise, the main focus is on urban areas, because it's in urban areas where this is a serious health problem for persons, for citizens. The topic focus on actions where you can demonstrate a substantial reduction of noise through solution that has high environmental but also economic sustainability. So for example, you can use low noise surfaces. So you can propose projects on low noise surfaces, on tires, but with a life cycle cost that is comparable to a standard surface on tires. Under this topic, you can also propose solutions related to low noise height barriers. But here you have to pay attention also on the fact that we want projects with low landscape impacts and using eco-friendly materials. And the topic also tackles lowering noise from railway traffic and airports. So thank you very much. That's all from my side. And I give now the floor to my colleague Solon for the water topics.
Thank you, Mario. If we could move to the next slide. I welcome everybody as well. Thank you for your interest in the live program. When it comes to water, the general overview is that not much has changed in terms of the priority topics. We're looking primarily into the continuity, and this was a decision amongst colleagues, but also DG Environment. What we've tried to do is particularly to provide additional clarifications or improve the text where needed. So if we start with the water, the first sub priority topic under water used to be floods, water floods and droughts, and now it has changed to water quality and quantity. But what is underneath hasn't really changed. We changed a bit the order, so we start with water quality, and as before, we address their management of nutrients and organic pollution, but also reduction of pressures from chemical pollutants. In particular, in this subtopic, we have also added elements related to pharmaceuticals and microplastics, which are high on the agenda right now. We then move to floods, droughts, risk management actions, and in particular, nature-based solutions, innovative prevention and protection tools and techniques, and innovative integrated risk assessment and management approaches, which were there before. An important element to bear in mind, though, here is that the nature-based solutions is the only subtopic within the water and marine, which actually allows for non-innovative proposals to come forward. This was because we wanted to help proposals to come forward with proposals, and we felt that the numbers coming in were rather low for this particular topic, and hence we didn't want to restrict this particular subtopic by adding innovation to it. So here in nature-based solutions, both innovative and non-innovative best practice projects are allowed. Furthermore, we continue with the same topic as before on hydromorphological pressures. However, we added here some examples, as you will see at the very end. For example, projects working on development of sediment transport management techniques and solutions, ensuring ecological flow and removal of obstacles. Finally, we continue also with the water saving measures. That was also another subtopic that was there before. But here we have removed the need to have measures in the river basin management plans in order also to allow proposals to make relevant proposals on this very important topic, which is high now on the agenda. Next, please. Moving to marine and coastal water management, again, this is not a significant change from the previous live program for those who are aware of it. Here we're focusing primarily on the Marine Strategy Framework Directive with regards to policy. And there haven't really been any changes in the subtopics here either, despite looking as if we lost one. So what happened actually is that the marine litter has been included within the human pressures, if you like, and this is normal, this is logical. So it's still there. Don't worry about it. It has not been excluded from the list. So we start again with underwater noise. Then we add the marine litter. That was a previously a separate subtopic. We have also disturbance of and damage of the seafloor, examination and reduction of impacts of deep sea exploitation and exploration, which was a better clarification than the text that was before, and also overfishing and incidental bycatch. Finally, we have also a clarification on the previous version of what was actually meant by agriculture, which is included as nutrient and organic matter inputs from agriculture. And we have added also aquaculture in this sub-bullet point. In addition, we have given you some examples, which are not exhaustive, of course, they're just examples with regards to what we meant by navigation. And here we've added as examples, dredging navigation channels, but also shipping highways. And of course, there are just examples, so you can also provide additional proposals if they're under the navigation. Thank you. We move to the next slide, please. So the previous live program here included water industry, but water industry means different things to different people. So this particular priority topic is actually related to wastewater treatment and drinking water treatment and supply. So we clarified this point by changing simply the title, and we refer now to water services. Here, not much, again, has changed, but there are some changes, and we will look into them in more detail. We start again with the application of innovative technologies and tools for drinking water and urban wastewater treatment systems, looking at resource-efficient processes and diminishing the presence of pollutants of emerging concern. What has been added, which is new here, is the treatment of drinking water and wastewater for reuse, which, as those knowledgeable in the water sector, is a topic which is high on the political agenda at the moment. We've kept also the application of innovative tools for resource-efficient provision of water services in rural areas, and we've kept also the next subtopic, which is linked primarily to the efficiency and effectiveness of recycled and reclaimed water. Here we still have concepts for alternative water supply, wastewater treatment, reuse of water, recovery and recycling of resources, and also source control methods and on-site technologies for decreased discharges of pollutants of emerging concern, and the systematic approaches to avoid loss of water, energy and resources in industry. However, we have removed one sub bullet point, which was related to the innovation hubs, as we did not receive enough proposals, and we felt that this bullet point did not merit to be in the list of water subtopics. Overall, if we look at the three water topics, from the quality and quantity policy-wise, we're linked to the Water Framework Directive and the Floods Directive. The marine and coastal management linked to the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. And as we said, water services on the urban wastewater treatment and the drinking water. But of course, many other policies are relevant to the water sector, and hence feel free to make these synergies with other policies. One other element to mention with regards to the water, a big change which is not under the strategic action projects, but as Aurelio mentioned, is under the so-called strategic integrated projects, is the so-called change in the themes of water under the strategic integrated projects. We used to be under only Water Framework Directive and the river basin management plans. Now, as you will see, the strategic integrated projects for the water sector allow also applications regarding the addressing issues under the Marine Strategy Framework Directive, and in particular, the marine strategies of the member states, and also the Floods Directive, and in particular, the floods management plans of the member states. This is an important aspect because these projects can have a big impact on regional, national, but also in the Marine Strategy Framework Directive could expand even at sea basin management levels. So there could be really big projects with a big impact. So with this, we finish with the water, and we move on to my colleague Fabio Leone, who will present now on the chemicals and the Bauhaus initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Solon, for the floor. Indeed, I'm presenting you the chemicals priorities. In a nutshell, the backbone of the chemicals priorities very much stayed compared to the previous work program, but they have been framed or better framed and better specified in line with the new chemical strategy for sustainability that was published in October 2020 by the Commission. So you will see that, for example, we start with the first priority, that is the prevention and reduction of impacts on environment and human health of hazardous substances. It was featuring also in the previous work program or in previous topics. What we mean by hazardous substances, we mean, and we keep some priorities below, substances of concerns. So those substances that have a negative chronic effect on the environment and human health. For example, those substances that are candidate in the REACH regulation, or the substances included in Annex 6 of the classification and labeling regulation. So these are a few examples. You also would like to see projects on substance combination of effects of substances. As you know, maybe substances in isolation, they are not dangerous, but if combined with others, the so-called cocktail effect, they become hazardous. Next, also nanomaterials, biocidal products and pesticides, and finally PFAS. This was added this year because it's particularly featuring in the new chemical strategy for sustainability, where the strategy is calling for phasing out of these substances in the near future. In all this frame of the topic, we, as you see, after we specify that we are looking for innovative solution, also called safe and sustainable by design approaches for chemicals. Next to the targeting of substances, there is a wish of receiving proposals and solutions to target the production of substances, so to reduce and prevent the impact on environment and human health of producing and using of the substances, especially solution to target new digital smart technologies, alternative materials and advanced materials. Finally, industrial production and use, which has a low carbon and low environmental impact. And next slides. Well, the priority is also to support REACH regulation and specifically also the Directive 2010/63 on the protection of animal used for scientific purposes. In this case, we are looking for alternative methods to animal testing, like models and tools to replace animal testing. You know, the typical examples that's already available is the QSAR method and modeling. Beyond this, there is a wish also to receive, this is the next topic, proposals that are looking in a more holistic way to the over life cycle perspective, to the production, design, and end of life of these materials. The focus is to ensure, on the one hand, the functionality of the chemicals, but at the same time minimizing the impact of the chemicals. The typical example also that we gave in the circular economy of waste is the product to service type of approaches, which also applies to chemicals. And final point is and this is exactly the same as it was in the previous program, it's the support to the Seveso directive, especially in trying to prevent risk and reduce risk of Seveso 3 installations. So this is in a nutshell the topics for the chemicals. We move now to the next slide, which is a new entry for the LIFE program. Is there has been a flagship initiative being launched by the President of the Commission, the new European Bauhaus in January 2021. For those that have been presenting LIFE or that have been featuring LIFE projects, this is not totally new to LIFE projects. So we do have projects that in a way they target the new Bauhaus initiative, but of course they have never been framed as such. What means projects on the new European Bauhaus initiatives? Well, we are aiming to receive projects that develop solutions that beyond the addressing the environmental impacts, so in a positive terms, they do it also in a sustainable, accessible and affordable way. So those projects which do that, that takes care on the environment, but on the other hand also about the aesthetic, and at the very end also to contribute to the quality of life of the citizens, then can fit this topic. A few examples, just because the area is so broad that we had to give some concrete example of what kind of project. You see it there in the bullet points. It is about reduction in a holistic way of the impacts of new buildings. It's about creation of virtual value chains, and finally also proposing new ways of insulating buildings or to other ways of architectural functioning, which also preserve and maintain the biodiversity. So that's all for the kind of new Bauhaus initiatives. And I will give the floor to Francesca for concluding on the environmental governance priority topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Fabio, and good morning, everyone. I'm Francesca Ettorre, Project Manager in the Circular Economy and Quality of Life team. And well, today I will guide you through the environmental governance priorities under the Circular Economy sub-program. So the first thing that you need to know is that as of the call 2021, there will be no more a separate call for the so-called governance and information projects. Rather, they have been included, embedded under the new life sub-programs on circular economy and nature and biodiversity, respectively, depending on the issue addressed. So if you are wondering under which life sub-program submit your proposal, which, for instance, target environmental crime, the answer is it depends based on the type of crime that you are addressing, whether it is more nature or environmental circular economy related. So today I will be focusing my presentation on the environmental governance priorities, specifically under the circular economy sub-program. They have not changed that much. There are basically three main subtopics. One focusing on activities in support of public administrations and voluntary approaches. The second one on environmental governance assurance, environmental compliance assurance and access to justice. And a third one on behavioral change and awareness raising initiatives, what were previously called the information project. They have been reframed and updated a bit based on the latest policy priorities and written in what we hope is a user-friendly way. So on the first topic, the LIFE keeps financing activities in supporting public administration, improving their capacity to implement, managing and monitoring environmental plans, programs and initiatives. So for the circular economy sub-programs, those that you see here listed are the plans and programs targeted. Most of them are not new, like national air pollution control programs, waste management plans, and so on. What I would like to highlight here are three new entries, which are the national or regional circular economy action plans, strategies, roadmaps, or similar. Secondly, the national radon action plans for chemical, and thirdly, the implementation of the Green City Accord by EU local authorities. And if we go to the next slide, please. Thanks. And the second aspect under this subtopic is the development, promotion of voluntary instruments and approaches in order to reduce the environmental impact of activities, products, and services. And the voluntary instruments targeted are those here listed. So basically, environmental technology verification, the ETV, the PEF, product environmental footprint methodology, the EU Ecolabel, green and circular public procurement, EMAS, as well as sustainability performance of buildings. Next slide, please. Okay, second subtopic, address environmental compliance, assurance, and access to justice. So in this respect, LIFE support environmental compliance assurance by a set of actions, basically mainly three, by establishing new or were already in place existing networks of practitioners or experts in order to improve compliance with EU binding environmental instruments, which are not nature or biodiversity related in this case, as well as by developing and implementing strategies and policies and or developing and using innovative tools. And here I recall you the definition of innovative, which was given before. So at member states and sector level, as compared to the state of the art. And here again, the aim is to enforce compliance with binding EU environmental instruments other than nature and biodiversity. Third action is engaging with citizens. In addition, LIFE promotes also the effective public participation and access to justice in environmental matters, so amongst the public, NGO, other stakeholders, in order to protect the quality of the environment via the requirements of EU air, water, waste, and environmental liability instruments. We can go to the next slide. Next one. Okay, thank you very much. And lastly, third subtopic addresses in particular behavioral change and awareness raising initiatives. So LIFE welcomes all those initiatives aims at raising awareness on environmental problems, EU environmental policies and or legislations among the relevant target audiences, with aim to foster the adoption of environmental friendly behaviors and practices. And here the priorities have been a little bit updated. So the initiative shall in particular target the European Green Deal towards a more sustainable food, energy, mobility and building systems, as well as circular economy action plan in order to ensure waste prevention and reduction, as well as sustainable production. And in particular, in those sectors which pose higher sustainability challenges, and namely textiles, chemicals, including plastics, construction and buildings, electronics and ICT, batteries and vehicles. And finally, the Zero Pollution Action Plan, aiming at achieving a toxic-free environment by improving sustainability in the use and management of chemicals, as well as by promoting clean air. So this is all from my side, and from the presentation of the priorities for the circular economy sub-programs. So thank you all for your attention, and I wish you very good luck with the submission of your proposals, also on behalf of all the LIFE Circular Economy team. Bye.